All right, hello, Mr. Johnson. You did a great job today for your first lesson. Let's go ahead and get into that review. So your thumb is going to be on this first string. We're going to do our exercises first just to get our fingers more nimble and dexterous. You had great fingers for that, by the way. So we're going to pluck and you're going to hammer on. So pluck and then hammer on. So you should have a nice tonal difference like that. So now leave that one on, pluck again. Hammer on the middle finger of the second fret, same string. Do the same thing with the ring finger, pluck. Hammer on it, and you want to make sure it's nice and clean tones like this. You're not going like that. It's not going to be muddy. So now ring finger to pinky, the hardest one, which you still did great doing that. So let's do that one. Good. So now we do the pull-offs to where you at least have like these two down. And you're going to pluck and lift off that pinky. You'll do the same thing, ring to middle. Middle to index, and then index to open. Okay, so now let's do the second string, same concept. We're gonna try to get our fingers all the way up the strings. Let's do that first little B string right here. So we go open, hammer on the index finger, then leave the index down, hammer on the middle, leave the middle down, leave the ring down. Now I want you to try to leave all four fingers down for both directions, but if you need to go ahead and lift to do that, it's perfectly fine. So pinky to ring, and make sure it's clean. So if you don't do it the first time, go ahead and try it again. Make sure you have that clean lift off and tonal difference, and ring to middle, middle to index, index to open. Okay, so then same thing with the third string, hammer on, so pluck, hammer on, index to middle, middle to ring, ring to pinky. Backwards, ring to middle, middle to index, index to open. So now do that for the other three. I won't go ahead and bore you doing that on here for you, but suffice it to say your fingers, you're going to get a little bit like you're angled at this first for the first few fingers, but by the time you get to the fourth, fifth, and sixth, your hand is pretty much going to be practically parallel to it while you're stretching the fingers across those four frets. So make sure you stay in those four frets, governing each string with one finger, or each set of frets with one finger. Okay, so now let's do the phantom exercise that I was mentioning. So this one is just a matter of getting used to the muscle memory. So this one, try to do it without looking, but go ahead and look first if you need to. All I'm doing is just leaving it down, taking my right hand off and leaving my left hand like down when I hammer it on. Next one, and just going up the strings, just trying to memorize them, the distance, because they're equidistant. You'll do the same thing with the middle, do a couple, like a couple hammer-ons, and then do one at a time. And you'll get used to the distance. Same thing with the ring finger. Don't worry about the pinky, it's not really necessary for that. So those are the first few exercises to practice on a regular basis to get your fingers a little bit more accustomed to the strings and the distances of the frets. So now let's work on the chords that we did, and don't forget to get that one tuning peg worked on just so we can have a nice clean sounding G chord when we come back for next week. So our pinky is on the 3rd fret, 1st string. Ring finger is on the 2nd fret, or 2nd string, 3rd fret, and then our middle finger is on the 6th string, 3rd fret. Index is on the 5th string, 2nd fret. So as you can see, my fingers are like this. I'm arched, nothing's flat. I'm trying my best not to interfere, so you can see like a good close-up version of that. My middle finger is not touching that 5th string beneath it, and I'm applying enough pressure. My ring finger and my pinky are arched to where I'm not interfering with any other string. So I want you to really take note of that on your own practice time here. So now let's go through each individual string and analyze if it's going to be one of two reasons why they don't resonate: lack of pressure or interference. So let's analyze it. Go through each individual string, starting from this bass string for the G chord. You got the 6th string. Should be nice and clean. Now if this 5th string is sounding a little muffled like this, so, and you feel a vibration in this finger, in the middle finger, which you shouldn't, but if you do, you'll want to arch that middle finger a little bit more to get that clean sound. Now, if it sounds like this, but it's not vibrating in this finger, then it's a lack of pressure from this one. So then you put a little bit more pressure down, a little bit more dig into the neck, and it should be nice and clean. So your 6th string, 5th string, the next string should be clean, but this was the one that didn't have the tuning peg, so if you want to mute it, that's more than fine. This one down here should also be open without interference, but if there is interference, it's most likely from this finger, like the nail or something. And then you've got the 2nd string and the pinky. So those 2 strings, if this one, since this one was giving you a hard time, it's most likely lack of pressure because the odds of interference are very minimal, but the pressure you have to give is even more if you're further back in the fret. If you're up here, the pressure you apply, if you go further back, I'm doing the same amount of pressure. So you do have to press harder to be in the back of the fret when you're playing like this guitar chord. Okay, so that's your G. Your 2nd chord was the E minor 7 toward this middle finger, migrated underneath that index. So my index finger came back a little further in the fret to make room for that transition of the middle finger to the 4th string. So those are all 6 strings as well. It should just be lack of pressure if it's not resonating, because there's not really any finger interfering with anything except for maybe the ring interfering with that one or so on and so forth. So try to resonate every single string there, all 6, and that's how it should sound. And then of course you do it again if you had to fix anything. Okay, so that was the 2nd chord. The next chord that we learned was the C add 9 chord. So notice how these 2 fingers have stayed the same for G and E minor 7. Now we're also going to do C add 9. Again, those fingers stayed the same. So this one was the 1 finger switch. Now we're doing the 2 finger switch to the C add 9. So G, down 1 for the C add 9. This one you will play 5 strings, and you'll start from this string right here, going down 1 string at a time, and analyze what needs to be fixed, if it's lack of pressure or if it's interference. Okay, so now what I'm going to have you do is try to